What's the date? 31st, right? We're still in August.
Right, but this is our first September meeting.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the August 31st meeting of the Richmond Selectboard, which is the first meeting from September, relocated due to Labor Day. First, we have any public comment? Here.
Go ahead. No, you go.
I think your last agenda item today is the scanning system to come into the building. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'm actually wanting to talk about the building itself and the committee that you had that you disband because you were bringing in outside people to do the work. I don't know where that project is. I don't know if I've missed an update on that at all, but we did push to have the select board, that committee recommended to the select board that they bring in an individual or a company to do monthly maintenance and had a contract, and we're paying them a set amount of money. And I'm disappointed that I'm not seeing a lot of work being done that was on the list that that group created, from pointing the bricks outside to just some general maintenance to even taking a few hours and starting to paint a room. I mean, anything that can be done is maintenance, right? So I'd like to see that you have an agenda item on your next agenda or a agenda that is accounting for the work that's been done, that you've paid for and that's scheduled to move forward, and some kind of tracking mechanism, whether it's an Excel doc, a worksheet that you're keeping track of that the public has access to for transparency's sake. I spent over a year of my life participating in something that went nowhere, as far as list of projects getting done kind of thing. So we brought in a professional to do that. And I look around and I don't know. I mean, there's ceiling tiles missing from the entranceway downstairs. How long does it take to put a couple of ceiling tiles up? I don't understand why we're not doing some basic things like that. I want us to take pride in this building. I know we didn't do the $10 million upgrade, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't do maintenance for 3 years after the vote. And I think it's been 3 years since that vote that it got voted down. And basic maintenance isn't being done. I think the only thing on the list that got done while I was here was the gutter that was bent and rotting, a piece of wood outside got fixed. The loading dock for the post office, I don't think ever got its work done. And I think the post office was going out to bid to get some of their work done because we didn't get it done. And I thought that's why we brought in that company to do some things like that or overseas contractors that they were bringing in. So I'd like an update on that. That's one thing. I'm going to go quick because I'm not going to stay for the whole meeting. The end of the meeting, you have that. I'd like us to reconsider. I don't know why we're having to pay additional money for something that was already voted on and the cost has gone up. Because did we delay it or did they delay it? But that's not right for the taxpayer. I want you to possibly reconsider those electronic key passes and not go with that. You know, it's just as cheap to have cameras at the doors because the electronic passes don't show you who's done what inside the building. So it might be a waste of money. I did originally think that was a good idea, but now since the new doors are in and working, and they're being propped open, as I've heard on different meetings here that I've watched. A key is just the same thing as the electronic things. To replace the locks and the keys, it's a lot cheaper to go that way and put in cameras. You can buy cameras for $100 for 2 cameras and put them on both entrance doors. So I think $42,000 is a lot of money. But since we aren't spending anything else on the building, maybe you'd like to overspend on those. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Penny?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Penny Rand, resident of Richmond of 25 years, and I'm here to express my profound disapproval and contest the proposed agreement between the town of Richmond and private property owner Andy Aldrich.
You're going to have a agenda item, so if you want
I know,
to
but
for it.
I don't know, is that appropriate to wait for then, or should I just say this?
It's usually the public comments reserved for something that's not specifically on the agenda, but if you have, like, as Kara said, she has to step out and she won't be here. If you want to make a statement now, because you
Well,
won't
I'd rather do it in person.
Okay.
And I want people to hear it.
Yeah, no, you're welcome to do it now.
I
or if you're gonna
understand
stick
that
around,
some people do these things now.
Go for it.
It is a public comment.
Just want to make sure you didn't.
I know it's on the agenda, but sometimes I know when it's later in the agenda, sometimes you don't have time for public comment. And I want to be able to say this tonight, since it's a possible vote on them.
Taken.
Is that all right?
It's great. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank
Sorry for
you.
interrupting.
No, that's okay. Thank you. I'll try to read it quickly. I wrote it down, so.
Go for it.
My understanding is that in order for the town to conduct the necessary flood damage road repairs in the upper portion of Dugway Road, the town needs to access a very small piece of Andy Aldrich's property and therefore needs to acquire an easement from Andy to conduct the work. I also want to preface by saying, I know it's Aldrich family, and I understand he's the spokesperson for the family. I don't know if it's his personal land. I know there's family involved. So I'm calling it Andy's land for reference. Andy's private land that needs to be accessed to conduct the work is a very small ribbon of land on the steep embankment just above the water line. For reference, please refer to the East Engineering site work plans. Andy has proposed that if the town eliminates the current parking spaces near what our family affectionately calls Yaggy's swimming hole, then he will agree to the town accessing his land to repair the road. This is a barter that seems to me to be incongruent with the necessity of the repair and the small piece of private property that would need to be accessed to conduct the repair. Furthermore, the current 6 spaces that Andy is referring to are just across the street from Yaggy's swimming hole. I understand these 6 spaces to be legal. They are not in the travel portion of the road. They do not present a safety issue for emergency vehicles. For the town to eliminate these spaces, I understand there needs to be a pressing public issue. At this time, I have not heard that there is a pressing public issue with these spaces. Vermont Statute 23 VSA 1008 grants select boards the authority to regulate, add, or remove public parking. That power must be exercised for the public safety and welfare, not private benefit. Andy's proposed easement agreement reeks of a quid pro quo coercion. Essentially, he is leveraging the town to prohibit public parking in this area to satisfy his private interests. I understand this could make the town legally vulnerable. According to the public trust doctrine and private benefit, Vermont municipalities cannot use public infrastructure to benefit a private individual at the expense of the general public. If the only purpose of closing the spaces is to help a landowner restrict access to a public resources such as the river, I understand the select board may be stepping outside its authority. If the select board were to approve the agreement, I believe the select board would be setting a dangerous precedent that could snowball for other private landowners seeking similar wishes in our town. It appears to me that Andy would like to eliminate the public from accessing Yaggy's swimming hole on the Huntington River. Presuming the town, pressuring the town to eliminate the 6 current parking spaces is not the first effort Andy has made to discourage access. His other significant effort occurred about 2 years ago. Andy placed a number of large logs in the right-of-way where people walk down the embankment of the river to swim. I was alarmed when I saw this and brought it to the attention of our highway foreman, Pete Goslin. Pete had seen it as well and heard from others about it as well and agreed that it was not okay what Andy had done and told me he would talk to Andy. Here we are, 2 years later, the logs are still there, and as far as I know, Andy has not been fined. According to Vermont Statutes Title Section 1105, a private person who places a barricade or obstruction in a public right-of-way or public highway to block public travel, including foot travel on trails, can face up to a fine of $1,000 plus repair costs and legal fees. FEMA has awarded money to the town of Richmond to conduct the flood damage repairs. What makes this situation complicated is that the FEMA money is time restricted. This time restriction is putting pressure on the town to obtain the easement agreement ASAP. Before the town can conduct the necessary repairs, the town has to get an easement from Andy to do the work. Under Vermont law 19 VSA section 949, if repairs to protect a public highway require entering adjacent private land and the landowner refuses permission or demands unreasonable compensation, the town select board has the statutory authority to formally condemn and take the necessary land or rights through established municipal condemnation and eminent domain procedures. I consider Aldrich's easement proposal that his demands be unreasonable and extraneous to the necessary work that needs to be conducted. Condemning the land by the town, however, requires perhaps a longer process and could put the town at risk of losing FEMA money for the repair. I don't know that for a fact because I don't know all the dates, but I understand there is a time situation. Agreeing to Andy's proposal now would keep the construction timely for accessing the FEMA money. And Andy's proposal is in a nice position to leverage his private interest. Under the Vermont Highway Law 19 VSA Section 310, the Select Board's primary duty is to maintain highways for the public good. Trading away a highly valued public recreational access point to fix a road issue instead of using standard municipal funds or eminent domain procedures for the easement is a direct violation of duty. I understand the reasons for wanting to discourage public access to the swimming hole is due to public nuisance behavior. I have heard some of these from him personally, and I implore the select board to seek evidence from him of his complaints, from him and from the closest neighbors, the Yaggies, who have lived right next to the swimming hole for 55 years. It is my understanding that Andy does not live on the property. Andy runs his tree farm and maple sugaring business on the property. In addition, I understand that the town has suggested that Andy erect no trespassing signs in areas on his private land where he has experienced trespassing. I understand that he does not want to do this. It's in the last page. Even though the town has the individual powers to eliminate parking and acquire easements for the necessary road repair, combining them into a targeted barter with Andy Aldrich for his private benefit creates substantial issues. Again, referring to the public trust doctrine, public rights of way are held in trust by the municipality for the benefit of the entire public, not for private transactions. If a town eliminates public parking spaces strictly to satisfy a private landowner's personal request, they may be violating their fiduciary duty to the taxpayers. For traffic or parking change to be valid, the select board must base its decision on public safety, traffic flow, or the general public welfare. If the official minutes of a meeting show the parking spaces were closed purely as the parking spaces were closed purely as a trading chip to avoid paying a landowner for a standard maintenance easement, it could open the town to lawsuits for arbitrary and capricious decision-making. I want to finish by saying Yaggy Swimming Hole is lovely. It is where my kids learn to swim. It is small and self-policing because of its size. The swimming hole offers a safer experience for younger kids than the lower sections of the river. I don't go there much anymore right now, but I want families in our town to be able to swim there. Eliminating the parking would completely deter families with younger kids from going there. Whenever I have gone to Yaggies, it is mostly local families that are there. I have rarely seen trash there, nor have I ever experienced uncomfortable, rude, or inappropriate behavior by any other swimmers. It is a gem of a place, and I compel the select board to prioritize keeping it accessible to the public. In conclusion, I request that the select board not accept this proposed agreement. Second, I request that the town formulate a new easement agreement whereby the town forgoes pursuing the violation for barricading the town's right-of-way with the logs in exchange for access to the private land necessary for the road repairs.
Benny,
Yep. Thank you.
do you have any more public comment? Oh. Here online.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shira Habermal, and I also have concerns regarding the elimination of 6 parking spots near Aldrich Tree Farm on Dugway Road. I do not have as long or as eloquent of a statement as Penny does, but I agree with everything she said, including her proposed solution. If the concern is primarily safety, which did not sound like from Aldrich family's communications with the town that I found in the notes, I would take a lesson from Bolton Potholes parking situation, or taking away parking does not eradicate continued recreation. It instead creates unsafe parking spots. And taking away all of the parking spots near Aldrich Tree Farm will only lead to people trying to use it in unsafe parking spots. I once saw a line of cars parked against the guardrail by Huntington Gorge. And while I understand that an agreement must be made for the town to get work done, I agree that this approach is unacceptable. The swimming hole off of West White Hill Road is private property, and they have signs that share this, as well as rules for the use of their property. And I'm really grateful to the landowners down there that share their river access with the community. And signage near Aldrich Tree Farm could help lead to better understanding between them and the public. So I just want to reiterate everything that Penny said. And thank you, Penny, for bringing such an eloquent statement to the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Shira. Do we have any more public comment? Any additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda? On to the main agenda. First item is a review of group expectations. This had started, I think, as a review of the CCRPC. Oh, Karen, sorry I missed you.
No, I was late doing it. This is Karen Yaggy, and I just want to clarify that the swimming hole belongs to the Aldriches and not to the Yaggies.
Never claimed it.
And, we've never claimed it as the property line is right before that. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you, Karen. Where were we? Group expectations. This started out as a review of the CCRPC group expectations. I think we had decided to morph them into our own a little bit, change them, amend them, review them, mull them over. So these are not adopted, just for review.
So last time you wanted to see them on town letterhead, so we formatted them, made them a little larger, put them on town letterhead for further review.
Thoughts, Greg? We have reviewed these before. Do you have any other thoughts?
Nothing new. I'll just repeat what I said before, which is whatever we talk about on these agendas, we should focus on the matter that's on the table, that it's never about individual people or their feelings. And I'm going to try to engage myself as a member of this board to reinforce that thought. But again, sometimes it gets personal, and I don't think it should. And if there is anything we're doing in our conduct that encourages people to feel that way, then we need to correct that. But that's all I have to say on the matter.
Anything, David?
I think it's good to have a document like this to keep behavior and agendas focused. I think everybody can use a centering document like this at times, myself included.
Yeah, I know I have, in the maybe spirit of collaboration or relating to people, allowed my demeanor to be more casual than is probably good sometimes. And so just reminding ourselves that these are the expectations, and we can be friendly and casual, but follow these expectations also. So what do we do for next steps?
I think we should wait till we have a fuller board before.
We do have Caitlin here.
Oh, is she online?
Yeah, she's online. She
Yes.
joined 15 minutes in the meeting.
But still seems like something we would want to maybe adopt with a full board. I think if we're going to adopt it and review
Yeah,
it,
there's no rush.
no rush. So great. Do you have any thoughts? No. All right. Next, we have consideration of approving a road name of Keiko's Run for a new private road off of Beatty Lane and location numbers for the new lots created on said road.
I don't know if you need it or not.
Thank you for joining us.
I heard that it
Um,
might be good, but it's Keiko's Run, but
Keiko's Run. Sorry about that.
no, that's all right. Because I mean, my kids were saying, Mom, you need that accent. They go, I need a long vowel sound over Keiko. But
Got it.
yeah.
I mean, this is a pretty mechanical thing. The numbers and the name are both reviewed by
Mhm.
this administrative officer and E911 coordinator. There's no concerns, so we'd like to approve it. No concerns on the town end.
I don't know if Karen still has her hand up from before.
Karen, do you have your hand up again, or is that just a holdover from earlier?
You mean Caitlin?
No, it's Karen, top left there, has her hand up still, but I think it's left over from before. I'll lower it for her since she didn't respond. But Caitlin is here and online as well, so welcome Caitlin, thank you.
I'd like to enter a motion, but before I do, I just want to ask if you don't mind sharing the history. Who is Keiko?
My dog.
Okay.
Our family dog. I mean, it was gonna be Dragonfly because my ex-husband passed. There's just a bunch of different things, and my kids just like, Mom, Keiko's Run.
Yeah.
It was our family dog. That's why. I guess
Great.
Keiko wasn't Free Willy too or something, but it's like Keiko, but my kids felt it that way. So that's the history behind Keiko.
Once a year, the Vermont Public Radio does a special show about odd town names, and it's helpful to have it in the record where they came from, I think.
Well, somebody
got sniped by Ireland Road.
Vermont or something like that on the paper said something unique because I guess it's not named, but that's originated from, yeah.
Mr. Chair, I would move approving the road name of Keiko's Run for a new private road off of Beatty Lane and location numbers for the new lots to be created on said road.
This is David. I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Greg, aye?
David, aye.
Caitlin, I.
Adam, aye. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Great name.
Yeah. Next, we have consideration of approval of a request to place signage in the town right-of-way to promote the Friday night food affair, which occurs twice a month from October 2026 to May 2027.
Marshall, are you gonna talk to that?
I think I better. I did the old bait and switch in our application. No, not entirely. That sounds.
Marshall, I hate to interrupt, but just a quick question. Where are the cider donuts?
Declined.
Didn't think there would be any questions here.
That's not appropriate.
I just for clarification, since the time that I did the application to the select board for the request for signage, I indicated that the signs were 18 inches by 24 inches, which are typical sized. We have since are hoping to have that sign 18 inches by 30 inches. So it'd be 6 inches wider. So
But the
the
same height.
record, 18 inches by 30 inches.
Will these be put up only on the day of, or are they supposed to be sort of a permanent fixture for the active period?
What we did last year with the select board's approval, and hopefully this year, is the signs would go up the Monday before the upcoming Friday's dinner. And then the sign would come down after dinner on that Friday night.
Okay.
And I'm the one that puts the sign up, and take it and take it down, and I've been able to do that. The only aberration, sometimes I'll put the sign up on the Sunday versus the Monday before the dinner, but they always come down after dinner Friday night. And I should clarify, I'm speaking in plural. There are a couple other signs that are on private yards in the town as well. This application is just for a sign on the lawn by the round church, just one sign.
This is one of the things that makes Richmond special. This is a fantastic event that happens at the church.
Agreed.
It's well attended, especially by Richmond seniors. So far as I recall, the pay is voluntary. Serve is over 100 meals on a Friday night.
We seem to be a pretty popular event, and 150 to 180 dinners we're serving each night. That includes seconds and thirds, though.
Louis Boutin has the record for that, I believe.
He does.
So I would move that the town of Richmond approve the placement of signages in the town right away to promote the Friday night food affair occurring twice a month from October 2026 through May of 2027.
This is David. I'll second. I just want to thank Marshall for coming before the board. And like Greg, I think this is a fantastic event, something else Richmond should be very proud of.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Start with Caitlin.
Caitlin, aye.
Greg, aye.
David, aye.
Adam, aye. Great. Thank you, Marshall.
Thank you. Our first dinner is October 16th.
Fine.
Tell you 80% assurance, so I don't want to. But historically, the Masons, our own North Star Lodge number 12, have done a breakfast for dinner, including, of course, Vermont maple syrup. So October 16th, the Congregational Church. Thank you.
Thank you,
Marshall. Next, we have a discussion of let me look at the correct thing. Discussion of cost of engineering work to obtain more information regarding the stormwater permit for the Mary Drive subdivision in regard to the proposed improvement of a driveway on a town-owned strip of land off of Mary Drive to rural road standards. So we had, I think we had reached out to Watershed to get an idea for the costs for them to ensure that this would keep us in compliance with stormwater permits and not trigger any new or amended permits or 3-acre issues.
Yeah, that was what the board wanted as the next installment here of the Mary Drive driveway rural road issue. So we wanted to make sure that it isn't going to trigger more with the existing stormwater permit for Mary Drive, which allows up to 2.5 acres of impervious. So there's a couple of things to look at here. When we did the initial renewal of the permit, we didn't get an exact count of current impervious. And the reason for that was that Watershed looked at sort of the aerials that they had on Google Maps, a few other resources, and did a drive-by, determined there wasn't anything that looked really large. We were still going to be under the 2.5. So they kind of went with the same amount, which was, I think, about 1.65 or so. And that there was plenty of wiggle room in there for acreage. Now that we're proposing a widening of a road, the board wanted to look at that to get a better count of what's the actual acreage of actual impervious right now. And then looking at the road designs, there's 2 proposed road designs, one that would include a waiver and one that would not need a waiver from A76 standards. Have those designs reviewed to see if they also stay in compliance with the zoning permit or with the stormwater permit. So the cost was a total of about $3,000 with $1,750 to go into the survey. So the sort of as-built survey, and that might benefit more than just this one landowner, any other landowner, if there was a proposed, deck or additional house in the future, we would want to know that number. So the board might want to consider carving that out. And then looking at the additional, I guess would be $1,250 is the cost to review the plans and then provide feedback to the state on if that does or doesn't trigger an amendment per our engineer's review of the plans. I will note that the state has done a preliminary feedback on the widening of the road. I think it's 0.06 acres. And they said, yeah, it likely wouldn't cause any triggering of additional permit fees or amendment to the permit, assuming that basically it's in the same kind of style and function as the current drainage structures up there, which is a lot of swales, ditches, culverts. So assuming that sort of all remains consistent, it will probably be fine, but the board wanted to have an additional review of that by an engineer. So that's where we're at as far as a proposal from Watershed to get that additional information. So we're going to see how you want to proceed.
I don't know. What do you guys think? Any thoughts, Caitlin? Seems like money well spent.
Yeah.
And the 1750 to survey an area that we are continually permitting and updating areas on. However we break that out, I would be comfortable with anything.
The goal being to avoid slipping into another one of these 3-acre permits or.
Well, yeah, I think twofold. Like this is a very small addition of impervious, so yeah, it really won't get us even close to the 2.5 acres that are already permitted there.
So the rules are today.
But that's also, yeah, you want to be, I think with all these permits we've learned, we want to be careful with how much impervious we add because we don't want to tip it into 3 acres. And also I understand that, if there was something significant that added even under 3 acres, there could be additional requirements from the state to comply with that permit, even if it's under 3 acres. So I think we want to go into it sort of eyes wide open, knowing that, we're not going to receive additional requirements for this. And if we are, then we have to figure out how to deal with that.
Yeah.
And then I guess the question is, if you want to move forward, do you want to pass any of the cost along to the developer of the proposed land? And if so, how much of that?
How much of the survey work is done on town land?
Well, so this permit is split between the town road as well as a lot of private lots, like a lot of these orphan permits are, where the town assumed responsibility 20-some years ago. So the survey is going to be, I think that the road's fairly easy to look at and see what's there. The survey is going to be mostly about the existing impervious on private land. But again, that's going to benefit, I think, everybody going forward who's involved in the permit. So it won't just be for the one, anybody else who wants to do an addition, then the board could look at that and say, okay, how much is that? And then we sort of know exactly where we're at with the existing impervious. So the split was to look at the as-built infrastructure at $1,750, and then it would be $1,250 for the look specifically at the plans for the road.
I mean, $1,750 for the as-built, if it benefits the town and all the town is the permittee and all of the houses, seems reasonable for us to cover that portion.
Yep.
The $1,250 to review the plans specifically for the road to be changed seems reasonable to pass on.
Yeah.
At a high level, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, other jurisdictions where I've worked, if outside engineering is required to validate the work being presented, then that's a cost borne by the applicant. So I would, on that basis, I'd be willing to propose that.
Yeah.
But I don't have the exact dollar figures. I don't have the exact dollar figures written down.
It is $3,000 total, correct?
Yeah.
$1,750 for as-builds and $1,250 for review.
Right.
Okay.
So that's what you want to do. I'll talk to Pete about, or Danny Pete about covering the $1,250. Assuming he's amenable to that, we'll move forward with it.
So, Mr. Chair, I would move that the town of Richmond approve additional cost of engineering work to obtain more information regarding the stormwater permit for the Mary Drive subdivision in regard to proposed improvements of a driveway on town-owned strip of land off Mary Drive to rural road standards in the amount of $3,000, $1,250 of which be paid by the applicant.
Do we have a second?
This is David, I'll second.
Any more discussion?
Is there any way that this could go poorly? Are we going to be surprised by a 3-acre property? Is I guess what I'm asking.
Sorry, what? Are we going to be surprised by a 3-acre property?
Or
you mean
like, could this go poorly and not in favor by getting reviewed?
Will the as-built tip us into the 3-acre realm? Highly unlikely. I think we're at about 1.65 acres right now, give or take. That's not an exact number. I've heard from homeowners there's like maybe 2 or 3 sheds that weren't on the survey. So I don't think we're anywhere close to 3 acres. But a good question.
Yeah.
Great. Just didn't want to do something without thinking about if we were setting us up for failure.
Right.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Caitlin, I.
Greg, aye.
David, aye.
Adam, aye. Great. Guess we'll just have an update next week, Josh.
Yeah.
3 weeks. 2 weeks, 3
It'll be
weeks.
3 weeks. It'll be the 17th, I think is the next meeting. But yeah, we'll give an update and hopefully we'll let you know where we're at.
Great. Next we have an update on receiving authorization to discharge under permit 6116-9050.1 for the Southview subdivision. So we got our 3-acre permit.
We did.
Do you want to give us an update? You think it's a better update?
Yeah, I mean, that's basically it, is that, it's obviously been a very long road getting here, but we got the notice of intent submitted, the plan submitted. We got the authorization to discharge under the permit from the state. So we've hit that goal. We've been able to realize the grant money. They actually paid the permit fees directly out of the grant money at the state level. We've submitted for reimbursement for the allowable engineering fees. So this phase of it at least is wrapped up. I want to thank everybody for their involvement. I think this goes back at least 2 years at this point. I know it's not been an easy process. There's been lots of challenges and along the way, but thanks to all the residents and to the select board for the thoughtful process and to the residents of the town in general to get to this point. So I think our next step is to determine when do we want to proceed with construction. I think we've got 5 years to get to construction. But I know there's also been talk about waiting on that to see if anything changes at the state level. So probably another agenda item for the select board in the future to say, what's the time frame that you'd like to look into? But overall, I think, yeah.
Great. Next, we have discussion of next steps after the Vermont Police Academy Criminal Justice Council's review of the Richmond Fair and Impartial Policing Policy and their conclusion that the policy is not compliant with the statewide model FIP policy. Do you want to give us another update, Josh? I know we had talked about this at the last meeting, but it's been more discussion.
All right. Yeah, there really hasn't been much more discussion since the last meeting. At the last meeting, the chief informed us about the process that he heard from the Vermont Criminal Justice Council that we had to revert back to the model policy, even though the policy they approved 1.5 years ago, they kind of rescinded on that. I think there was some staffing changes and some further review. So we provided the document that they marked up as far as their letter about what they didn't like in the policy. So the board right now, I think, has a decision of, do we just accept the model policy and go along with that? Or do we want to engage in a process of looking at what's important to the town to try to add back into the policy or to change? And if that's what you'd like to do, I just noted in previous iterations of this, I think this is we've gone through a revision of it at least twice since I've been here. Richmond Racial Equity was very involved and helpful in providing some feedback along with Mike and Justice. So it might be, a couple members of the board wanted to work with them on some feedback and then bring it back to the board for some consideration. That's one possible path to look into. Or board members could do it on your own. You don't have to seek, I don't know, make it sound like you have to seek outside help, but
I have this sneaking suspicion that all of the things we wanted to change
Are unchangeable.
are not changeable without being found to be not in compliance. I mean, after reviewing what the conclusion was, that's basically what happened, is everything we changed was found to be not in compliance with the.
Yeah, I think it's hard to make some changes anyway, because it seems like they kind of struck a lot of it out.
I also don't, I guess, like, statutorily don't understand how we are required to, I don't know, whatever, set policies that you don't agree with. Like, if you want to make a set of policy, then pay our police.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with like the federal laws and what they wanted to see us, complying with those laws. But again, I don't propose to be an expert on it. If you had specific questions, I think the chief knows a lot more about it.
Yeah.
You can follow up with him to see where he's gotten. I look like Caitlin had her hand up too.
Go ahead, Caitlin.
I can look into this more too. Do we know of any other towns that have changed it and are in compliance that we can model from?
That's a good question, and I don't know of any other towns. I would imagine that Migrant Justice might be a good resource for that. I could also ask the Academy if they know of anybody that's got an approved policy. So I'll follow up with the chief to see if he can ask the Academy, because that would probably be the most official way to go.
Great, thanks.
Just to underscore though, if we have a non-compliant policy, they have some leverage in the way of enforcement action. They can decertify our force.
Yeah, I think there's decertification, but there's also basically a freeze on any federal grants. So that would include FEMA money. So it's pretty important that we remain in compliance, especially from a financial standpoint.
That's townwide, not just police associated.
Correct. That would be grants townwide that come in from the federal government.
Yeah, when we're trying to build the force in the way we are, it seems like that's a bitter pill. It seems that we'd be well advised to make ourselves compliant and then work for change from a compliant stance.
Yep.
And that might mean advocating for statewide action.
Caitlin, are you going to follow up on that a little bit? Not to hold you to that.
I will definitely follow up on that.
Whenever you have time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. No, I'll reach out to Migrant Justice and Richmond Racial Equity and look at what other towns have done and so forth. I would like to understand what the law is around it a little bit deeper as well, and get into the details.
Thank you. Next we have, let's see, what are we on? We're on G, correct? We're discussion of process to review requests to establish displays in the town center. So I didn't have a chance to dig into this one, Josh.
Yeah.
We went over it briefly, but.
So this is one where I've gotten a couple of requests recently. One was from a resident who wanted to put up a portrait that her daughter painted of a resident in town who had recently passed away that was very meaningful to this resident and her daughter. Another was a request from the senior center to put up, I think it was a shelf of like sharing puzzles. And I just wanted to see how the board wanted to look at those types of requests. I think about signage on the front lawn in the town center. Obviously, there's lots of opinions about what should go up there, what shouldn't go up there. And my concern is if I approve certain things and somebody doesn't like it, what's sort of the recourse and what's my method for approving certain displays, or if I don't approve certain things. Yeah, so I just want a little more guidance from the board. And obviously, if you look around, there's a lot of things that have been put up over the years, and things have been put up by staff members, volunteers. But as I'm getting more formalized requests to put things up, I kind of want to feel out, well, where do we want to go with this? How do we want to establish something? We could establish a policy, like a sign policy or a sign and display policy that would cover both the outside lawn as well as inside. And then it sort of gets into, well, does the board want to do it as government speech where you sort of limit things based on what the select board would like to approve? Or is it more of a public forum where people can kind of put up kind of whatever, but you can't limit their content?
That does seem like cracking open Pandora's box a little bit.
Yeah.
Given the state of political dialogue these days, sort of open wall policy could bring a lot of things in here that we don't really want associated with town government. But in general, the town center is a community resource, and it should reflect the community at large.
Yeah, I think we do need to come up with some policy to keep things focused.
I just struggle to see the difference between a portrait. The only difference between this portrait and one of the many paintings and portraits hung up is the person who requested it. So it happened to be someone who was involved in making and or having the portrait made of themselves.
Well, I guess so. A lot of I look around, a lot of things that have been put up. A lot of them are, I think, historical society, paintings and things of the history of Richmond.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the other thing, the board could also say, yeah, we want to let's take a look at the portrait and we can improve that. I did reach out for a little bit of legal advice on it because of what we've been doing with the town sign. The advice would be that you would adopt that as government speech and have some sort of a resolution that you approve of the portrait going up, or any other request. I don't want to focus on just this one request because I imagine that there could be a lot of requests coming in the future, or maybe not, but just for sort of one of the best practice for how you guys want to handle these things.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we would want to preclude ourselves. Oh, go ahead.
Aren't we small enough town that you can decide on a case by case basis? And aren't you sick of making policies by now? Case by case is the best way to go.
I agree with you fully. I know that I think the concern usually is that if we decide on a case by case, someone will disagree with one of our cases and then we'll get sued.
Listen, the same thing about the signs out front. Not everybody loves those signs, but there they are. And that, to me, that's a case by case basis.
I mean, I guess we could make the policy that anything that's not hung up by the Historical Society would be reviewed on a case by case by the select board, and then it would be fall under government speech, and it would kind of solve the whole thing. Yeah. Right.
I think you could have guidelines, a list of guidelines, so that when something comes in, then you're
the height we hang it at,
or just more like
I know what you mean.
guidelines.
Not racist, the kind of things that is acceptable in society.
Yeah. The other option would be to pursue it through the Historical Society if it's for someone who has served the community or noteworthy individual. Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess then if you want to give authority to the Historical Society to just hang up things and make that decision, like we have that with the Radiate Art right now for the murals outside. Okay. There is an actual policy and procedure.
That'd be obvious. I can't imagine the select board approved every single historical.
I hear this. Yeah.
They kind of already have.
Yeah. And some of that, and when we did the leases, I think it was 5 years ago now, there was something carved into, I think maybe it's just historical, maybe it's the others, I think specifically Historical Society, where they can hang things up with the town manager approval. So there was some check and balance on that. So I think I probably did say, put up the sign, put up the historical photos of that. But where I get a little uneasy is, I don't know that I want that resting on me as a town manager or any town manager, just because I'm not sure that one person is the best arbiter of what should or shouldn't go. And, I think the board's done a good job with the signage and those requests. So maybe it's as simple as changing it to come to the board for these approvals, and then you guys look at them and say yay or nay. We want to get some advice though, because I think if you don't adopt them as government speech, then you basically have to sort of say yes to everything. So maybe you want it as a government forum or a limited public forum, or the government, where you have some control over it. Isn't
us choosing to adopt them individually? Like if we are the government and we are choosing to adopt them or not, isn't that by default government speech?
I think that would work. And then it's just a matter of, if you want to have guidelines, what do you want those guidelines to be? Mm-hmm. And then how do we put those into place?
And then Karen?
So my question is really just my request for the seniors who had I think it was roughly 3 feet wide by maybe 3 feet high, 2-shelf bookcase that we had over at the Congregational Church, where we had jigsaw puzzles that could be borrowed and returned. So people didn't have to, constantly go buy jigsaw puzzles. I've asked for permission to put that in the town center, because the town center is open and the seniors would have access to the jigsaw puzzles all day long. And so I was told that you guys would need to make some kind of a policy. You really need a policy for a 3x3 bookcase with jigsaw puzzles?
I don't think we do. I think that's what we're getting at.
You go to the library.
No, the library didn't have room for it.
No.
Karen, go ahead.
Karen Yagi, member of the Historical Society. I just wanted, as Josh said, I try to ask him ahead of time. I know it's part of our lease when we put up the high school banners or the graduation photos. When I did the train bulletin board, I tend to, email Josh and say, I want to do a bulletin board on the train, and he emails back and says, that's okay. But I do think it's legitimate to always check first.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Karen. Penny, I think you had.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that it seems like I'm not really clear on where this is in the town center, but it seems like maybe there could be a place in the town center that has sort of this space that has maybe rotating exhibits or displays that is maybe just a wall or a shelf that kind of changes now and then, so that if someone comes to you and they say you want this painting that is, that's up for the month of whatever, or for 3 months, or I don't know what the time is, but could be like a sort of community space, if you will. I mean, I know it's the whole community, but I can understand where you don't want to have that everywhere in the whole building, but maybe you designate a spot in the building that becomes this place where older people who come and get puzzles, and that's also where the art is, evolving art. I think that's a cool idea. Somewhere in the town hall, but not everywhere, because you guys have work to do here, but it's also a place where perhaps if somebody wanted to come get something, that's also a space that could be maybe a designated spot for us.
I think the two are, in my mind, the two requests that we're talking about now specifically, even if we're talking about it more holistically, are distinctly different in that one is serving many members of the community with the exchange of, call it ideas, goods, books, puzzles, or whatever. It seems like something we would be able to easily approve, maybe delegate the placement of to Josh. Is that a reasonable?
The puzzles?
Yeah,
absolutely.
What your thoughts are. I don't see any drawback to that. And I hope it's not only seniors that are using these.
No, it's not. I've observed it being used at the Congo Church for as long as I've been a member there. And, it's a very popular thing.
Caitlin.
I just want to mention that the Historical Society has always mentioned to the other renters of the building that anytime they want to use the bulletin boards or the spaces, our displays can be moved. And so far they haven't taken up on that, but I think that should be true for the whole community, that if they had a use for that space, we're flexible and movable.
Thanks, Karen. I think that the puzzles specifically and the things inside the building to me feels separate, in that I would assume that, Josh, you would kind of make decisions on what is brought into the building that would serve the community and so forth. If someone has candy on their desk, if someone has for the kids that come in, if someone has, puzzles displayed somewhere, and if there's a good place to do that, that serves the community in a healthy way. But I'm not sure if we need an approval on that. If we need to approve anything inside the building too, that could get messy in itself. But I'm not sure if we get like a ton of requests around stuff to go inside the building versus on the front lawn.
Well, yeah, we don't get really a lot of requests. Just as I got a couple, my mind kind of went to, well, who should have approval over what goes on the walls, versus it just sort of being put up here and there, which is sort of how this has grown. Like, oh, that's a cool picture of the wrong church, we'll put that up, to name one type of thing that would go up. And that's where I just, again, I don't really want if I approve something and somebody doesn't like it, it could open a can of worms. Or if, something else comes in and I say no, that's where I feel like it should really be, if the board wants to do it on a case-by-case basis, then great. I think we can do that and try to find some legal guidance so that you can also say no to something. If something came in that was clearly offensive, you wanted to say no to, you would have a legal way to say no to that.
So case by case, and then what are the puzzles right now? Do you want to just do that, or are you comfortable disapproving that? How do you want to do that?
Or do you want to just bring it back? We can talk about it at the next meeting about what you want to do for the other ones case by case, and then we could bring the puzzles. We could talk about the portrait as well if you wanted to.
Sure.
For an actual warrant item to say, yep, okay.
Oh yeah,
puzzles are good. Find a spot for it.
Yeah, if we're gonna make a motion,
And-
probably warn it.
Yeah, and the portrait's good. Find a spot for it. And here's why. I think that would give a lot of clarity to myself, and maybe to the public, but more so to myself as far as what you guys want to do.
Sure.
All right.
Does that work for everyone?
Here.
Kaylin.
That works. I would say in the meantime, with Friday Food Affair coming up, and also just that note about the puzzles at the church, there is a large collection of puzzles there. So if you're looking for a puzzle in the meantime, I know that there's a bunch there as well.
Good call. Thank you. Next, we have the discussion of process and consideration of setting up a hearing date to consider discontinuation of legal trail number 2.
Mr. Chair, I will recuse myself from this item.
You, Greg?
I may speak. John Rankin from the Trails Committee. At our August 18th meeting, we reviewed the Select Board's discussion of legal number Trail 2 from your August 17th meeting. We also discussed the recreational potential of legal trail number 2. We agreed to individually visit the trail and that one or more of us would attend tonight's Select Board meeting. We also agreed we may offer an opinion on discontinuing legal trail number 2 once we have more information. Now I will speak as a Richmond resident. I walked the full 1/4 mile length of the trail 2 weeks ago. I stayed entirely on the trail. I did not walk onto the adjoining property. I had wondered why 2 home sites were planned in a faraway location. The answer came to me as I walked. There is a great view from the trail. You get a fine view of the Huntington River Valley. This is not something there is much of on Dugway Road. You can also see the Green Mountains. The view must be even better when the leaves are off the trees. I now assume the home sites were chosen in part because of their commanding view. Not all of you may be walkers or runners. It is very common for people to put a small detour in their route to take in a view. Residents don't currently know about legal trail number 2. If residents knew of the short trail with a view, some might enjoy adding a half-mile detour to take it in. I could see a modest number of responsible residents enjoying the short walk on the trail. Many of the publicly accessible trails in Richmond are on private land. Access could be revoked at any time by the landowner. We need to hold on to the trails where we have permanent access. The last meeting, it was argued that trail number 2 is a liability and we need to get rid of it. With that logic, one could argue we should get rid of all our trails. While the landowners might prefer the privacy of having the trail to themselves, they should have known the trail was there when they purchased the property. We're already doing them a big favor by allowing them to build their driveway on the trail. The town should not be in a rush to give away our recreational resources. I ask the Select Board to table this discussion for now. We should wait until you have a chance to visit the trail and find out if residents have an interest in this unknown recreational asset. If you reject my advice and feel compelled to move forward, I do ask that you schedule a site visit on a clear day so you may see what we would be giving up. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, very cool. It's my understanding that it is just a right of way that provides that trail, that there is no town ownership. Is that true?
Yeah, I think
we don't own the underlying land.
Right. It's a right of way that lays over I think it's 3 separate parcels right now.
Okay. So considering some of the aspects that John had mentioned about assets, the town has invested by accepting Wright Preston's 1,354 acres into the Federal Forestry Legacy Program, for which his family received $1.5 million in exchange for, he gave up his development rights, but that allowed anybody in the United States or anywhere else to have access to that 1,354 acres. The same happened with Danny Pete. He accepted federal forestry legacy money. The same with David Sunshine. The same with Betty Preston over here off Thompson Road. Yet there's no access provided for anywhere, you know, and that is legally required by the Federal Forestry Legacy Program that they took money for. Betty Preston took $450,000 for 161 acres being taken out of conservation, by putting into conservation out of development rights. But the exchange was she got the money, gave up the development rights, but we were supposed to have public access. And I'll use Wright Preston because it's my favorite. He's never provided any, he will not let anybody provide, this is where the trails are. He's reserved land, I understand that he can do anything he wants, but the 1,354 acres, there's gotta be some views up there. We're supposed to legally have access to that because he got $1.5 million. Same with Betty Preston. I think people do use Betty's property for trails, but I'm not sure of that. But I'll be attending the meetings on withdrawing that trail from public access, and I think it should be withdrawn. The trails are nowhere. You can get a view driving into town. And excuse me for asking this, where does one park? Does one walk all the way up there? Or does one?
Many people in this community go for long walks, they go for long runs. I park at the Land Trust parking lot, which in the summer very well might be full, but people walk year round. People look at views year round. I had no trouble parking there. So some people would park there. Some people would park on illegal sites, and some people are going for a 10-mile run and might just want to look for a 3-mile walk and look at this nice view.
My caution is the illegal parking. Thank you.
I don't think many people would use it, to be honest.
Thank you. Nick?
Yeah, hi. How is everybody tonight? I'm just joining to defend the legal trail number 2. I am one of the property owners up there, and my biggest fear is safety, as well as parking. People parking to access, obviously, all of the swimming holes is already a huge issue on Dugway, and it's going to be made worse. This driveway is going to access 2 house sites up there. It accesses nothing else. There are views everywhere in Richmond. You can go to many places, many roads, go on a long run. On West White Hill, you could see beautiful views there. I do not think that people are going to drive by a 16-foot wide driveway that looks like it's great parking to swim in the swimming holes and not park up there after seeing what I've seen. The condition of the trail right now is pretty inaccessible if we have not been clearing it and maintaining it like we have been in order to get up there with vehicles and start thinking about construction. This trail has not been maintained by anybody. It's hardly drivable, and it really is hardly walkable if it weren't for my clearing of the trail. It's a trail that does not go to anywhere else except our properties. And it is concerning to think that people would want to come up and recreate. And I am completely fine and understand people wanting to walk and see nice views. But I think it is dangerous to let people up there and think that it's a spot to park and recreate, because it might look inviting to keep going past where the legal trail ends, which is just a right of way. And it just brings you onto private property. So those are my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
And just clarify, I see no rush here. You can wait till next year. You folks can go and look at the trail yourself, not at the meeting to get rid of the trail, but before you even go that far.
Okay.
Yeah, no, this is once again just another situation where the public right of way should remain in the public. And as soon as these kinds of public right of ways are lost, they are lost forever. And if this is where private landowners can work to provide signage that is friendly, that is saying my house at the end of the trail, my house, this is private land here now, and this is where the trail ends. This is all over Europe. There are public trails on private lands, and they are respected. And it needs to, we need as a town to maintain our public right-of-ways, to not give them up. So it might be two people who live close to where your property is, trail number 2, that there's no public trails there. So maybe someone walks their dog up to where the trail ends and walks back to their house. As a town, we need to maintain these public right-of-ways for people within that little area. We're not advertising for someone to come and hike that trail and go to your private land. That's not what's happening. This is maintaining public access on the public right-of-way. Losing that is not okay. I don't think that's okay for us to continue. We lost it up at the end of Williams Hill Road. Same situation up there. Very unfortunate. And it's going to just be taken little bit by little bit. And for people who live up at the end of Williams Hill Road, how nice for them to walk through it would be. What if somebody rode their bike all the way up and went through? You're not going to have people coming from far away to hike a quarter mile of trail. You're just not. It's just going to be by local people. That is my feeling. And private landowners have the ability, and it's your land, and it is your job to manage your land. And to fear what hasn't happened is what's not okay. That's America. We fear what hasn't happened. It's a public private right of way now, and we need to keep it as such.
Thank you, Penny.
The only problem with the issue of making it better, nobody has been accessing it. So really the only reason people would access it is because of the work that we are putting into it. Right now it's not accessible. Nobody's been going up there. And the fact that we have to upgrade it in order to make it a driveway is going to show people and make it accessible. And it has not been accessible. And I do agree with you. There's a lot of places to go and walk that is right of way, but there's just nowhere to go up there, and it won't be accessible unless we build our driveway. And I don't think people are going to come and park there just to walk the quarter mile. I do think people are going to park there to swim in the river, and there will not be a way to get around the driveway. And I do think that it's going to be a safety concern for the fire chief, who has had very strict requirements for the driveway we are building. So in order to get a fire truck up there is going to be pretty impossible if people start parking, especially at the bottom of the driveway, in order to swim.
Bob Heiser. I actually lived on Dugway for about a decade, and I've lived in the village now for a little more. When I lived up there, I loved walking and running on Dugway Road. I have to admit, I don't go up there and park on Dugway Road now, or sometimes I'll park down on Cochrane Road on those little pull-outs by the bridge. But I do, so this isn't out of a personal interest, but I do feel for people. And by the way, I came for another agenda item. I didn't realize this one was on here, but I can say almost the exact same thing with one exception, that, I do feel for people who are in walking distance of
a river or a trail or a place to get out in the nature. And I think we are living in a time where the evidence appears to be people want to get out and be active, be it in rivers or along roads and take a walk or a run. And I think it would be moving in the wrong direction to remove public access and places for people to park to access those things. I do also think I don't want to minimize the impact on private landowners from people behaving badly. And I hope we can work as a community to think about ways to make those events happen less often. But I think giving up a permanent right for public access is the wrong way to achieve that. And to forever cut off the ability to come up with another solution, I think would be unfortunate. I think it is healthy for people to be able to enjoy all parts of our town and walk in public places, on public roads, on public trails. And I think giving those things up would be the wrong direction to go in.
Thank you, Bob. Caitlin, David, what would we like to do?
Well, I've heard from both sides this evening, and I think the option at hand tonight is if we do a public hearing or not. If we do not do the public hearing, we're essentially deciding for everyone involved not to move forward. Is that accurate?
And we can choose to set a public hearing at any point. So if we didn't set one tonight, we could set one at the next meeting or any meeting after that.
Right, and there's also another process that if I think the landowners brought forward a letter of request, that would, I think, compel you to set a public hearing that or a petition. So there's three ways to get to it. Either the select board sets it on their own volition, the landowners submit a letter saying they would like to have a hearing, or there could be a petition submitted. So if you decide not to set it tonight, the landowners might come with a letter, or they might not. You can come back to the next meeting and look at another time to look at it. I guess just one note about that process. You probably need about 45 days or so from the time you make that decision to when that hearing date is going to be, because there's a 30-day public notice period, and there's some things we would have to do after the decision's made to get ready for that and get everything posted 30 days in advance. To, I think it was John's point about going up there on a clear day, there is a site visit associated with the public hearing. So everybody would go up who is interested in attending the hearing, would meet at the trail, walk back down, and then come for the indoor portion of it. Can't guarantee it's going to be a clear day. Unfortunately, you sort of have to set that in advance when you do the 30-day notice. But there is a chance to view that. And just thinking timing wise, if we get much past October, daylight becomes an issue to do something in the afternoon or evening. So you would maybe need to look at like a weekend site visit, and then snow cover becomes an issue. So just bringing those up for timing wise. Otherwise, it might need to wait until springtime when it's a little bit more accessible via daylight and snow cover. So just some things to think about as you make the decision.
We're going to wrap this one up, Mary. So do anyone want to make a motion to set a hearing? Do you want to make a motion at our next meeting to set a hearing?
Sorry, one more question. So Josh, you're saying that just the homeowners on that, off that trail can write a letter and have us set a public hearing anyways?
Yeah, I believe that's exactly how it works. They could write a letter and to the select board to say, we would like you to set a hearing, and then you would have to initiate a hearing.
All right, we got to move on to the next one. So if I don't hear a motion, we're going to move on, and we will take this up at any future meeting.
Okay, I would like to take this up at a future meeting. And it being like the next meeting potentially, I think that there's enough opinion in the room that it's worthy of a hearing to hear and have all of the data at hand. I don't think that this is going to go to just to nowhere. I think it's going to go to a conversation regardless, and it should.
Yeah, I agree. Great. Next, we have consideration of striking section 7 of the license agreement for a driveway on legal trail number 2. This is related to the same trail.
What is striking section stuff?
Yeah, pull that up.
Yeah, you want to give us a summary?
Yeah, let me.
Can you just confirm, was that, there's going to be a hearing, what was included for the last one?
We did not set a hearing date.
Okay. And so something else will happen at some point.
Be hearing at some point.
Okay.
Date TBD,
Okay.
potentially.
All right. So, get this to share. So this is in regards to a license agreement for the same trail, which would allow the homeowners to construct a driveway. I think it was 2 meetings ago, the board was in favor of a license agreement once it was drafted by our attorneys and agreed to by the property owners. At the last meeting, the property owners asked if they could remove the surety, which would basically be money in escrow or put aside, that if the driveway was abandoned and not finished, the board would have some money to either dismantle the driveway and bring it back to a trail, or complete it and bring it up to a full driveway. The board approved that request to remove this surety, understanding that right now the trail is in sort of rough shape. So they didn't think there would be much risk in the driveway not getting completed and it being in worse shape than it is now. The request currently is, this is section 7. So it's, I have it up on the screen, shared with everybody at home. It essentially allows for the board to ask for maintenance of the driveway. And if that doesn't happen, then to go out and do the maintenance that the board wants to see done, and then put an invoice to the homeowners or to the property owners to pay back for that maintenance. So that would be as long as it remains a legal trail, obviously. So it's up to the board, is that something that's important that you want to keep in case there is some sort of maintenance idea, or is it something that you are willing to say, okay, if it goes into disrepair, it's no worse than it is now, but maybe we want to get it maintenance. Is that clear?
The only situation I can foresee, which admittedly is very unlikely, is if all development were just stopped and there were obstacles left, piles of gravel, broken construction equipment, something.
That would be covered by the surety though, right?
Yeah.
Which we struck.
Right, this is
more like ongoing stuff. And it's, the way it reads to me is it only covers the actual driveway. It doesn't cover the trail itself.
Right, it would be the
So this would be to ask Nick and the other neighbor, or not ask, to be clear, the point of this is to be able to force them to maintain the driveway to some standard. I guess personally, my take, I don't have any concerns knowing that the standard that, given the outcome of the trail discussion aside, even if the trail were to stay, the condition of a trail to be passable on foot versus passable by a car, so the delta there is so wide that I don't have any concern. It would be useless to him and any future property owner if it were to be impassable by foot. So I actually don't have a problem striking this personally.
Yeah, I don't foresee a situation where this would be an issue.
If it were to be a town right away for cars or vehicles or something like that, I can see how this would be, or it were to guarantee access to a piece of town infrastructure, I can see how this would be needed. But in this situation, I think it covers us for something that is ultimately unnecessary.
I agree.
Adam, this is Caitlin. I moved to strike section 7 of the license agreement for the driveway on legal trail 2.
This is David. I'll second.
The motion in a second. All those in favor?
Caitlin, I.
David, I.
Adam, I.
That was a nail biter.
Yes. I was waiting for the other person. Great. Next we have item J. Consideration of request to create a no parking zone and install berms and reflectors to prohibit parking on portions of Dugway Road that run along the Aldrich Farm property in exchange for providing the town with an easement for repairs to Dugway Road that are necessary due to the damages from the 2023 and 2024 floods.
For me to give an overview. Okay, so I think I don't see Mr. Aldrich here this evening. since the last meeting, there was discussion about some way to block the cars from getting off the road. So I think it was the next day, myself, Select Board Member Greg Rabideau, and Road Foreman Pete Gosman went up and walked the land with Andy Aldrich to look at, his specific areas of concern. We looked at an area that an earthen berm could be placed in, as well as some reflectors. And that, along with a promise by the Select Board to look into amending the traffic ordinance to make that a no parking area, seemed to appease Andy. He thought that would be probably a good agreement. So I had it drafted up for his review, considering that sort of seemed to be the direction of the Select Board 2 weeks ago. He got back to me on last Friday, to say that his attorney still had some questions about the agreement. It wasn't currently acceptable in the format that he had it in. His attorney will talk to our attorney. That won't be able to happen till tomorrow. So I think that's probably why Andy's not here tonight. I did also talk with Vermont Emergency Management to try to get some more clarity on the deadlines. I think it was about 2 months ago. They were like, "You're not going to get any more deadlines. Hurry up, get something going." So that's, we're out to bid. We're trying to, finish up everything with the easements. I've been able to contact them a little bit more and get some more clarity. They actually have 48 months from the declaration of disaster. So the disaster was declared in August of 2024. It dates back to the 24 flood, how they're lumping it together. So that gives Vermont Emergency Management until August of 2028, the ability to grant extensions 6 months at a time. So they're able, as long as we're showing progress. And progress can be, we're working to negotiate an easement, we're working for land rights. What they don't want to see is, oh, we don't have time to do this, so we haven't done anything, or we don't have money to do our match, so we're not going to do this. Then they would say, no more extensions. But as long as we're showing progress, Vermont Emergency Management said you would likely get that 6 months extension. So I think that helps to take some of the timing pressure off of the decision for the Select Board. I can't guarantee we're going to get the extensions, but it's highly likely. I've never seen Vermont Emergency Management deny one, and I have good confidence that they would continue, as long as we continue to act in good faith to secure the easements, continue to work with us to push that deadline out.
Greg, do you have any input from Pete as to how emergent the actual repairs are, setting aside any kind of deadlines for grants?
That's a good question. I know that he is concerned that if we get another high water event like we've had in 22 or 24, that it could cause some failure in the slope. Obviously, it's been 3 years now since 2 years since the 24 storm. We've had, some higher water level events, but that hasn't caused significant more damage. But I think if we got a big one, we could have some troubles.
I'd like to point out that we had letters from several people on this matter. Penny's here tonight. I know her husband Rand wrote a separate letter, and there may be other people here who want to talk to it about tonight. I want to sort of refute the notion that there's some kind of backroom deal or some kind of nefarious thing happening. A site visit is a normal part of the board staying informed so we can discuss these meetings, when we come back to the public hearings. This process, this idea has been a matter of public hearing a number of times. I also want to assure the public that hearing from Mr. Aldridge and hearing what his demands are or what he would like doesn't necessarily mean we're going to give him everything he wants, but it's important for us to hear his side of the story. And it is difficult in these situations of public access private lands that people oftentimes sort of come to that with a sense of entitlement and not enough care for the privilege that they're getting to be able to take advantage of these private locations. I just have to take a little bit seriously the complaints that Mr. Aldridge has raised about behavior at all. But having said that, I'm not a lawyer and I'm not going to speak as to the matter of law. We have a town attorney to review that. There is clearly some opposition to the idea of losing the parking spaces. That unleashes if we follow Mrs. Rand's perspective, a process of perhaps having to condemn the land or something more legally aggressive towards the Aldrich farm. Would always like to work to avoid that. Would always like to form consensus where we can. Mr. Aldridge has made plain what he's looking for, and we've tried to find accommodation for that. If there is some compelling legal reason why that can't be done, then our hands are tied. But I felt it important enough to at least give the man a hearing on his concerns and see for myself what we were talking about. So I'm just going to lay that on the table.
Thank you, Greg. Yeah, that's right. Oh, Caitlin, go ahead, and then the audience. Ahead,
I have been trying to think about these things as two separate things, and trying to look at the request to remove parking as its own piece, and then the request for the right-of-way or the easement, for the work that needs to be done separately, despite the time frame. Great to hear, Josh, that there's some action that we can take there to extend that time frame. And as such, that brings me down to where I've come to in thinking about these as two very separate things, in that we need the easement in order to execute the work, and we will need to have that easement. That is its own thing. On the parking side of things, hearing from Mr. Aldridge was very helpful to understand what he's been facing. I appreciate anyone that can come to the board and talk through what they're seeing and so forth. And it's helpful to have public input, especially as it is in regards to their lands and what's happening there. That said, one of the pieces that we did talk about was how if we adjusted parking and so forth, or if there was not parking in spaces, that he was already finding that people were adjusting where they were parking and parking on other parts of his land. And so I don't think that removing the access to public parking there is in his best interest or the best interest of the towns as a completely separate measure. And I don't think that it is the right solution to what is happening up at Dugway, although we do need to continue to think through what is the right solution, because people are being affected and our emergency vehicles can't get through there and so forth. But I don't think that this is the proper solution. So as I've separated those two things, I don't believe that it makes sense to move forward with removing those parking spots. And I do believe it makes sense to move forward with the easement separately. And I'm thinking about those again as two separate things.
Good. Oh yeah. Oh, behind Penny.
Adam Burnett. That is largely kind of how I was looking at it, to think of these as two separate issues. And that was sort of I had two questions coming into this, which was, is it common or really what led to these two issues being brought together in sort of this manner, to have a town request sort of come back with a rebuttal from a resident to say like, well, this for that type of thing. And then also, what is the nature of these repairs? Is this critical infrastructure that is affecting other people on Dugway Road? Is this just something for Mr. Aldridge's property? Kind of what if we just don't get the easement, I guess, would be the question.
Sure. To address the second piece first, it sounds like the worst case scenario is this would lead to a washout of Dugway Road, similar to when the gorge washed out a number of years ago. Could be anywhere from a foot to the entire road, because we don't know until if it were to happen, and it would affect everyone on Dugway Road if that were to happen. As it is now, the road's very passable. There's minimal damage to it. I don't know.
I think that you're starting to see, there's erosion, there's some walls that were in place or some structures that were in place underneath, down by the river. Those have been washed away. And that's where, FEMA and Pete are both concerned that if we get another big storm with enough force, it's weak enough where it could eat away. It was damaged in both the 23 and the 24 floods. FEMA wrapped it into 24, which actually gives us the extra time. The total project number that's approved from FEMA for both is 1.36 million. So that's their estimate of what the total repairs are going to be. FEMA typically pays 75% of those. There's usually another, I think it's 16.5% of the costs are covered by the state, which leaves the town for, I think it's like 7.5% of the total cost, if I'm doing my math correctly in my head. But that is, part of what, but now with the time extensions for Vermont Emergency Management, I'm more comfortable on the time frame of it that we'll get the money. We'll still be able to do that as long as we show progress. Who's to say about a future flood, though? To your earlier point, we could get a giant flood next month, hopefully not. But that's always sort of the outstanding risk.
Well, it's like having a cracked board under your deck. It may, it may not fall down right away, or it may fall down in the middle of your party. I'm convinced by Caitlin's point of view that there are two distinct issues, and I think in Penny's writing, it sounds like that may be a compelling reason to take those apart. I don't know where that leaves us with Mr. Aldridge. So, when I started by saying, is this an emergent issue? If it is, then we probably need to start the condemnation process. I would have rather avoided that because of the time constraint it would impose. There's a process there. I don't know how long exactly, but I was originally operating under the assumption that December was a sort of important time in this project. So it's unfortunate that we may have to do it that way. It still leaves us with what can we do to ameliorate the problems at the Aldridge farm.
I think I had thought about them as one issue because that's how they were presented to us initially. Right. And I think the biggest challenge I face with the parking was that historically we've only regulated parking when it's been a safety issue, and that's been the main driving force for us. This select board, previous select boards through over the last, whatever the parking issues have been regulated has been to maintain safety, predominantly to get emergency vehicles through. And so this would be a serious departure from that. So that's the part that I really struggled with. And I think what makes me ultimately have a hard time getting on board with that would be regulating parking where there is no clear safety issue we would be solving through that regulation, and no clear nuisance that's really been well documented. Not that they're not issues that Andy rightfully probably has, but those haven't been documented through police actions or other documentation, and they don't seem to pose a safety issue to the public. So it's just challenging to step over that, for me to step over that line to regulating parking beyond when there's a safety issue. I do agree that it causes us, it puts us in a tough spot to have to start the condemnation process. And I would say that there is a way to avoid that, which is we are open to negotiating or any other exchange, be it monetary or materials or whatever, that would be acceptable to the Aldriches to have to secure that easement. I know that ultimately through the condemnation process, no one wins except for lawyers. Aldriches would probably get less money for it. We would spend more money, and it'll take longer. So it's a worse situation for everyone. So I think I would say it would be to our advantage to continue to try to negotiate a monetary or other exchange of goods or money, not a policy. It's just my thoughts on it. I don't think we are to a spot where we'd have to start the condemnation process at this moment.
I agree. Well, the Aldridges have counsel. We obviously have a town attorney. They're talking to each other. I think this board needs to send them back with some clear instructions on what to do next.
Agreed.
And I think as a preface to that, I'd like to know for a fact in law, which really needs to come from the town's attorney, Whether or not such a quid quo pro is just verboten, because if it is, we don't have it to offer.
Does make it a cleaner conversation.
Exactly so. And it just, it's something that, we can go back to them and say, we're not changing our mind. We're just learning we can't do this. But I don't think we're.
I can answer that question because I had Dave write up the agreement for the berm and the no parking. And at no point did he say, whoa, you can't trade this for the easement. So I think you're legally allowed to do it. He would have flagged us if there was risk for the town. So unfortunately, you don't have that out.
Can you ask him again?
I can ask him again, but I think
$250.
I don't believe he would have written the agreement if we were not allowed.
He's very good at flagging.
So, that's
it's a fair question because if we're legally not allowed to do it, then there's an easy answer. But I think you're legally allowed to do it. But I think it's fair to go back and say, okay, based on this conversation tonight, the board reached a consensus that they don't want to trade the no parking for the easement. What else can we talk about? And I think that's probably a good next step.
I don't know if that's a reasonable next step. I will say not having the legal argument does make it a trickier, more nuanced conversation and negotiation, but ultimately I think I land in the same spot with my willingness to trade the easement for the parking. Kaylin?
Yeah, again, I just go back to thinking about the two separate pieces here. And yes, we need the easement, but the request to remove the parking spaces is just off the table for me because it doesn't benefit the property owner or the community. And so at that point, it's too high a cost to be paying, legal or not. It doesn't make sense in this case.
So what direction do we want to give? I guess we should be super clear, extremely clear about what direction we want to give. Would we like to have our attorney reach out and say that the board has come to the conclusion we're not willing to make that commitment
on the parking?
But
before we put a stake in the ground, we'll just go back with a counter offer.
Yeah.
Just say we're looking for you to come back with a number.
Yeah.
Or something other than parking. What else do you got in your bag? That may be a dead end, but I think we ought to start there.
We owe it to Andy to not start the condemnation process.
Yes.
Without him in the room and having put in a good faith effort into
absolutely
negotiate.
I still have great sympathy for what he's been going through.
Oh yeah.
And I wish people had a bit more manners because these kinds of issues wouldn't be problems. I mean, they've lasted over time in Richmond because people did have a certain kind of ethos about this that I don't see always in evidence. But
here we are.
Here we are.
Okay. You go Penny and then Youngs.
Okay. You want to go first?
One simple thing. How many feet are we talking? Jim Young, been out there 45 years on Dugway Road. I'm a part of it.
Yeah, there's two pieces to it. I guess there's what do we figure out for total feet of no parking zone to be?
No parking zone.
Oh.
How many feet of the river bed?
Yeah, so it's the high water mark to the edge of the easement, which varies. I think we'd figure between 3 and 10 feet, kind of squiggly width.
So, and watching the river the last 45 years. By next summer.
One big storm, it could be 0.
By next summer, it would be 0.
Just saying. So the one big storm would create a problem and solve a problem.
And stuff like this, I think he knows that too.
I mean, it could be 0 that he would own.
If the river moves, he then.
As the river is the power line.
I guess I just look at the way the engineering plans are drawn. It's pretty clear where the right of way ends and where the strip begins. I guess I need a surveyor to really say, like, would it move and how would it move?
To Jim's point, if the river moved 3, 10, 20 feet,
if you looked at
we could resurvey and we would legally.
Where the river was back when the whole town had to do a floodplain thing, and you compare it to where the river is now, the house down from me, the river has moved 70 feet.
Good grief.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think I know that house.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, it's just, yeah. I'm
70 feet there. We don't have a map.
And it's coming towards Andy's.
Yeah, it is. He's not too far down from Paddock. Yeah.
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 Good point. Thank you, Jim.
I am sympathetic of the landowners along, all along Dugway Road and the people who want to swim the river. Great desire, great recreation, completely understand the frustration some of these landowners must have enduring this traffic. And I bike that road probably 3 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 summers ago, I counted 150 cars. And this summer, I would say, is much better because of the parking that has the new parking enforcement and arrangements with the signs. I will say that I had a thought the other day riding it that if I were coming to swim there and I didn't know the area, I'm a college student, I come to swim and or maybe I'm a responsible adult versus a maybe open-ended college student. Let's just say I'm a responsible, I want to go swimming there. It says to not park in the travel portion of the road. I can tell you, what is that? It's kind of hard to know where that is on a dirt road that just ends and then the forest begins. So the other day I rode by and no parking on the right side, like you have said, or on the non-river side. Great, that's really been enforced well. Parking on the left side, people are really edging over. And I think a lot of people think, I'm not in the travel portion of the road, but how did it's not really clear for them, for a person. So one thought I had was to try and help with this reduction is to point out where people can park.
Mm-hmm.
And anything outside of that is not okay.
Well, isn't that the nature of those signs? They each have a QR code on them.
Well,
No, I'm talking, yeah.
so I think, and I do want to bring this back up as a
I think we should bring this back up, but I don't think this is directly relevant to the.
No, anyways, I know this is just a suggestion, but it's what I want to say is that I think it's possible to even control the parking problem for the landowners and have the town help with some of that even further. I think they've done a great job. With regards to Andy's property, I'm sure you've heard from him what his issues, what he's experienced, and I'm sympathetic of that. I don't want to say I don't trust everything he says, but I do hope you have evidence of that, because I heard some things that felt exaggerated. And the Aggies would be another great family to find out. They live there and they are a family that could also give you some feedback of, are these things really going on? Basically, they're there all the time. So, yes.
Thank you, Penny.
Mm-hmm.
You have your direction you need, Josh?
I am good. Thank you for the conversation.
Anything else, Caitlin? Greg?
Sorry, I was reading. Yes, I do have something else just really quickly. I understand we just did a fair amount of easements for the water and sewer project as well. I would use that as a baseline for how we go about easements if there's any point of contention. And I don't know the details there, but I'll look up that piece too.
Thank you, Caitlin.
If you want to call me, I can fill you in on the water and sewer easements. Easier than looking it up.
Sounds good.
Go ahead.
Hi, guys. I just wanted to add, I think I'm glad to hear the tenor of the board. And I just wanted to add a suggestion along the lines of learning about this situation. Obviously, Penny and I have talked about it a lot and have a lot of thoughts, but it did occur to me and Penny that the act of the landowner to put the logs in the town's right of way, adjacent to the road between the swimming hole, is not a proper act. And so I don't want to sling mud, but if we're all going to be good citizens and approach this issue, I think that needs to be addressed by the town. So I'm with Caitlin and the other board members. If the parking is a separate issue than the easement, I'm very glad to hear that. But I'm just want to suggest that in negotiation and agreements, that we talk to the citizen as good citizens, and that they're responsible for their actions in this domain as well. So I think the town would be due diligent to look into that, not to sling mud, but just to say, hey, we're looking after our stuff too.
Good, thank you. All right, move on to our last agenda item. We have consideration of approving cost increase for installation of electronic access control systems at the town center due to delays in starting the project. Yeah, there were significant delays.
They were on our side.
On our delay, right, yes. This is pretty standard. Most quotes are good for 30, 60, or 90 days. We have exceeded all those. So that gives the contractor the right to reprice it or refuse if they like. They've chosen to reprice. I guess we have the pricing, which is up. What is it? What's the total increase?
$2,400.
It's not even 24.
Oh wait, no, that's the annual.
It's $1,351 extra.
Yeah, well, part of it's the initial fee goes from 41,500 to 42,851. So that's.
Oh, and then the cloud pricing went up.
Cloud pricing. It seems like their cloud pricing has increased in the last year and a half.
Is the cloud pricing locked in when we do this, or can it increase every year?
I am not sure. I haven't read that level of detail on it, but
I would be surprised if that cloud pricing didn't go up to 2,400, no matter when we approved it.
It may well have. Yeah, I imagine. I mean, usually the cloud pricing isn't going to be for 20 years, so it probably would be subject to change. And the other alternative was an additional on-site server and control system here, which was going to be a lot more costly than trying to do the cloud.
Yeah, either way, it's a ton of money, right?
Either way, yeah. So I think, in their cloud service, basically we'll be able to log in, control everybody's access, turn things on, turn things off, create new cards, a little more management on our end. But honestly, when we think about how many keys are probably out there from different people who were on a committee for a year and then never returned it, and the card system is a lot easier, and it can also be on your phone. It can be either or. So I guess
this only works if we put in a policy in place and enforce it where we don't prop doors open. To Garrett's point,
I think it does make it easier, because what we can do is we can unlock the door and leave it unlocked if we know we have a select board meeting. Hey,
you can automate that.
You can automate it so that it closes at 10 o'clock, so that you can finish your
first
meeting.
of the month, and you go in and you automate the whole month.
Right. So I think it makes it a lot easier where you don't have to rely on a volunteer to lock it up.
Optimistic.
Well, I was thinking
come budget time. Midnight.
Well, so
We're still here.
And really our meetings aren't that bad because I'm always here to lock up. But you start looking at like some of the other committees that don't have a staff member here, we're relying on them to lock up, and that's not always the first thing on their mind. So it'd be easier just to be like, okay, every night at 10 or midnight, whatever, after a meeting, it just locks automatically, and then the door can stay closed. It's real easy.
It is a lot of money. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Well, when I first saw the number, my jaw dropped. But now I'm, reading into it, it's 20 openings.
Yeah.
Which I'm surprised there are that many openings. My one thought is, do all of those need that kind of access control?
We looked at all the places that currently have locks. So all the offices, all the renters, the downstairs, the main entrances to the building. So, it took quite a process just to get to where we were initially, and then we was like, oh, we're going to change the doors. So that then delayed us because we had to align a lot of different. Put that together. So
federal installations do this all the time, and $2,000 an opening is You know, it's probably $500 worth of hardware and then a lot of low voltage wiring.
So we do a lot of this at work, and our per opening cost is $2,500 to monitor and $5,000 to access control.
And we also, at the time,
we actually use the same contractor sometimes, so I really want to take this in and be like, what the heck?
So I just want to expand that so that people listening in have an appreciation that it's not just the door down here that we've been watching. I'm wondering why the Velcro is still there.
Yeah, it's every office door, and we went out to bid, and I think we had 4 to 6 bids on this. So, you know, there were other bids that were higher.
Do we have a history of attempted entry? Yeah, I mean, do we come in and find those doors jimmied or?
Not really. I mean, I think every now and again you've heard like, oh, it seemed like somebody was in or there was somebody here, but I haven't heard of anything getting really stolen. It's more just trying to make sure that, I guess it's just better control so we don't have a bunch of keys floating out there. Because right now there's probably a lot of keys. And I think this makes it a lot easier to manage that too, so that, you know, we can turn people on, turn people off. We're not chasing keys. I mean, right now, I got a ring of probably 10 keys, probably so does Duncan.
Yeah.
So it just would make it a lot easier to organize. And then when we have tenants as well, because they have people that are going to come see them, it's just like there's a lot of key readers.
The tenants can ask you to authorize or unauthorize people.
Exactly, as their
So
staff or volunteers.
Yeah, I mean, it is a lot of money, I think, for a small town, but I think in the grand scheme of things, for the amount of access and different spaces we have in here, it's a no-brainer.
Does this include the post office, by the way?
It does not include the post office. They have their own system over there.
Okay. It's probably for the best.
What do you think, Caitlin?
All right.
Yeah, safety first. I don't want to wait till something happens.
Yeah.
Adam, this is David. I move to approve the agreement with MEI for an electronic access control system for the town center in the amount of $42,851.40 to come from the town center reserve fund with an annual fee of $2,400 paid out of the building maintenance budget.
Mr. Chair, this is Greg. I will second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Caitlin, I.
Greg, aye.
David, aye.
Adam, aye.
And we do have cameras, right?
We have the cameras that were installed with the police office. So we have a camera at the entryway. We have a camera on the outside of the building, and there's a camera to the police entryway, and then there's a bunch of cameras in the police office. But yeah, as far as the main entry, that is fully surveilled.
Okay. We do have one set of minutes from our last regular meeting to approve. Did everyone review them? It looks accurate. I hope you're not expecting to review the minutes now, David.
Give me 10 minutes. Adam, this is David. I move to approve the minutes of the August 17th meeting.
This is Greg. I will second that motion.
All those in favor?
Caitlin, abstain.
Oh, Greg, aye.
David, aye.
Adam, aye.
You aren't pointing out loud.
Greg. We have 2 purchase orders. Is this, so the first purchase order, we pulled it up. Great. That was the total cost of the repair?
Yep.
I thought it wasn't it priced at way more than that?
For the sewer line?
Yeah.
No, that's the price. That's
cheap.
That's the bid that we got. We went out to bid on this.
We got a competitive price, or we got a order of magnitude price to dig it up too, didn't we? That was like 30.
Oh yeah, no, that's what it was. Yeah, the one was double to dig it up. They did the pipe burst. And like I say, they were the only bid that we got, but we looked at it. We said this is probably reasonable. I thought they did a great job. You know, they came in. It took them one day. They did the pipe burst. They got everything put in. They had 2 fairly small patches of the road. They left the dirt for a little while to settle. They just paved it over last week. So I thought they did a wonderful job.
That includes paving?
That includes, yeah. And really, they minimized, like when you look at the trend.
I was shocked. They must have done I thought they did a test pit to figure out where they were going to.
That was their pit.
And that was nothing.
They did a great, I thought they did a really wonderful.
That's very impressive.
And they were very professional inside, communicating with the library the entire time about what they can and can't do. I don't think they even shut down the toilets. They're like, no, we'll just clean it up. So they did a great job. They were awesome.
Pay them the money.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, really.
Well, they're like, we got the back truck here anyway, so you don't really have to stop using them. Like, I'm sure we can back off for an hour or 2. But no, they did a great job. So thank you to P&B.
And just reiterate too, that price for a newly lined septic line without having to disturb anything is just extremely competitive, I guess is how I put it. That's like less than the cost of installing a new water line when you already have the hole open.
Yeah.
You're already doing excavation. We would have had to go across a road, under a power line.
And a gas line.
All kinds of stuff. It's great.
Yeah, sewer line. Okay. Adam, this is David. I move to approve purchase order number 5639 to P&P Septic for replacement of the wastewater sewer line for the Richmond Free Public Library in the amount of $16,800.
This is Greg. I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Caitlin, I.
Greg?
Aye. Thank you.
David, aye.
With one chance. Adam, aye. This is the casual demeanor that I was talking about, trying to eliminate. So we have another purchase order for Watershed Consulting for the Southview Stormwater Design.
Yeah, and this one was for their final design, which you guys already approved the agreement. And this is actually our second invoice. I made an error and put the first invoice to a previous PO with these guys. So wanted to make sure that we had the right PO here and that it was approved. But you already approved the agreement. The work's already done. As you said, we've already got the notice or the discharge permit. So
and this is paid for by grant funding?
Part of it, right?
Yeah, about $30,000 of it's paid for by grant funding. The rest of it is not.
Adam, this is David. I move to approve purchase order number 5642 to Watershed Consulting for engineering for the Southview Subdivision Stormwater Permit.
This is Greg. I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Caitlin, abstain.
Greg, aye.
David, aye.
Adam, aye.
Adam, this is David. I move to approve the warrants as presented.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Caitlin, I.
Greg, aye.
David, aye.
Adam, aye. Guess we would have items for the next agenda.
I'm going to agree with Mrs. LaBounty this evening. I feel like we should have an update on where the town center. I mean, we talked a lot about wanting to just start chipping away at things, and especially the brick pointing stuff in the back and around the side here. Those are things that are weather sensitive. We don't want to have to pay to tent something to and heat it. We're running out of season for outdoor work. So just sort of kind of some understanding of if there's a spending plan in place or if we have contracts or just where we're at on that.
We'll have some of these items will be back on the agenda, but we don't need to go over every single one individually. Take notes. Caitlin, you got anything that you want to see on the agenda that isn't a holdover?
Did we get a time frame of the? I know we talked about this a couple weeks ago, and sorry I wasn't here last week. But the crosswalk installation and the additional signage for the
DHPC.
Yeah, I think the signage, I forget the exact update, but the signage he was going to try to get to sooner. I think it was about a week or two out for delivery at that point. The reflective crosswalk, I think, will be here this week or next week. And then he's going to work on putting that together along with the radar speed feedback sign. And those will be in probably later September or October, I think, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. He's looking for a day to build it all and install it all.
Cool.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'd love an update next.
Sure. I mean, we did just do.
Sorry, Caitlin.
What did you say, Caitlin?
Sorry, I said I just love an update next meeting.
Just do it at the beginning of the meeting so we can, when everyone's here for other exciting things, they can get that update as well.
You got it.
Also, doesn't need to be next meeting, but whenever the fire department is available, I'd love some FaceTime and just hear how things are going. Just a general update. Does not need to be next meeting. I know their training overlaps too, so they may be a couple, like a month or two out, and that's fine.
Tonight would have been a good option actually then. But
yeah, it would have been. But I'm sure we'll find a time for them.
I think things are going pretty well, and I just would love to hear from them and have folks be able to hear and get some FaceTime for them to continue recruitment and so forth. Yeah, see the awesome stuff they're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Great.
Adam, this is David. Move to adjourn.
This is Greg. I'll second.
All those in favor?
Caitlin, I.
Greg, aye.
David, I.
Adam, aye.
1 minute
adjourned.
early.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all. Sorry to not be there. See ya.
Something or?
Here we're closing bell.
Okay.
I've actually missed the part that I was coming for.
Oh.